You say I make you nervous, a tragedy, I'm a beautiful disaster, a reckoning, you wonder how I got this way.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to my channel. I'm Sunshinery. Make sure to subscribe and like this video.
And tame, oh, some things never change, never change. Oh. You think I would...
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. It looks like Rachel gave us a double dose this week. She just released chapter 4, and it's called The Questions Get Tougher. It says, in an effort to be fully transparent, Rachel wanted your input. You asked the questions, she's ready to answer, and we're ready to listen. So make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and then go back and hit that notification bell to all so you can get notified every time I post a video or go live. All right, guys, let's get into this.
This is Rachel Leviss, your host of Rachel Goes Rogue. I'm here with my iHeart producers, and they'll be helping me go through different questions, things that you guys want answered. We took to Instagram and prompted you guys to ask me a few questions, wanting to know what you wanted cleared up, the things that have been on your mind, and I'm ready to answer everything. So let's get into it.
So you didn't even end up with Tom. And looking back, do you think all the drama was worth it? And do you regret your time spent with him?
I don't think all the drama was worth it. No, I have a lot of regrets with that. Part of me wishes that, well, I don't know, it's complicated too. But I know the comments out there saying, oh, you blew up your life. You blew up everyone else's life for nothing. You're not even with Tom. And almost like an entitlement piece of like, we at least as viewers deserve to see you guys at least take a shot at a relationship since you effed it all up for everyone. And to that, I say, I don't need to do that if I know that this relationship is not good for me and it got me at my lowest of lows. So in trying to improve on myself and be a better person and grow and learn from my mistakes, getting back with Tom would be a step backwards. As a cast member who has been influenced by fans in the past and wanting to explore certain things, I can see like that part of me that wants to fulfill that request. But in reality, it's just not a good idea. And I hope that you respect my decision to not have Tom in my life.
So I see these comments too all the time. And in my opinion, like at this point, she's moved on. He's moved on. She's blamed him. I mean, at that rate, there isn't a chance there either. I just think he liked it when it was kept a secret, and so did she. And when it got out, it was a big thing. And yeah, it caused a lot of issues. And maybe this was what she needed to figure out who she is as a person. I mean, I don't think they should try having a relationship. That's my opinion. But I do see that comment a lot, so I'll give her that one. She answered it pretty good.
Now that you're not with him, how do you feel about his treatment towards Ariana and how he blames her for cheating?
I don't approve of that at all. I think that Tom uses Ariana's mental health against her, and it's very manipulative and messed up. I think he could have gone about it in a much more mature way, but who knows if he's even capable of that.
And you've said your relationship with Ariana was for the show and not deep or genuine, but she disagrees. So why do you think you're not on the same page?
This is an interesting one. Okay, hold on. We need to backtrack a minute because there's a backstory to how all of this played out. Back when I was with James and the pandemic hit, we were cooped up together, too scared to like go out at all. And I found out later, Tom told me that he had a lot of friends over during the pandemic. And I was like, dang, like that would have been nice to be invited to because my COVID experience was hell. And so I feel like a lot of people didn't invite us to places because they didn't enjoy being around James. And before that, like I wasn't that close with the cast. Like the closest person that I was in relation to was Scheana. And during the pandemic, Scheana had some specifications on who I couldn't and could be friends with in order for her to allow me into her house. All of this to say, when we filmed season 9, which was our lowest point season, it was right at the end of the COVID lockdown. We were really restricted on filming. Different places weren't allowing filming. A lot of places were still closed. We had regulations on what kind of food we could eat and where it came from. We had COVID tests every single day that we were filming or the day prior, and we still did throughout season 10 as well. But that was when I started getting closer with Ariana and the rest of the cast, because we kind of were in this world together, like this unique experience. We got to film during this lockdown, and it was still not close friendship, but we definitely had warmed up together. When James and I broke up, I had a conversation with Scheana, Ariana, Jenny Ting, and my friend Paige, and I explained to them why James and I broke up, like the real reason why we broke up. And during that time, Scheana and I got pretty close. I wasn't hanging out with Ariana, but as we were filming, we had a few call times together, bathing suit shopping, and her getting ready at my apartment before one of the nights out. And so I can see how it looks like we had a much closer friendship than we did. But in reality, I was much closer to Scheana at that time. Ariana, she's never been somebody who spoke down to me. And so I think that's unfortunate that I played into that. I am very remorseful about that. And I'm making these decisions in my life now going forward to never betray a friend like that again. Every single person deserves that same level of basic respect.
I still think she's downplaying how close she was with Ariana. And clearly, yes, during the pandemic time, season 9, yeah, she was closer to Scheana. But she got closer to Ariana after her relationship with James. Regardless of how close she was close to Ariana. She is just downplaying this, trying to make it so the burn doesn't burn as bad, and it never is going to work. And I do agree that Tom is very manipulative, and he likes to blame others for his mistakes. And that I can agree with her on. But the friendship, I don't agree at all.
You said you were a lot closer to Scheana. Do you feel any guilt for how hurt Scheana was from all of this?
Here's the thing. I did feel guilt when Scheana was talking about how the temporary restraining order affected her in that moment. And I've worked through this with therapy and a professional. And yes, okay, it's okay to feel guilt in that situation. But Scheana assaulted me, and there are consequences to your actions. If anyone knows that, I know that. And I feel like it's very hypocritical of her to say that I need to take accountability for my actions when I believe I've been taking accountability this whole time. Yet she still won't admit to what actually happened that night. And in a way, I don't expect her to. I know she has reasons for not admitting it. I know that she's protecting her daughter and her family. And because her husband, Brock, had some domestic violence case be brought up on the show in the past, he already had a lot of backlash and scrutiny from that. And if she was also in a domestic violence, physical assault case, then that would just really look bad for their family and possibly jeopardize their parenthood with their daughter. Perhaps I think that's why she felt so emotionally charged about it, because I think she went into survival mode. She felt like her child was being threatened, or she was being threatened with the fact that it could go really south really quickly. And so she has all the reason in the world to lie about it and defend herself and go as hard as she did. But in answering your question, I can't take on that guilt that I felt in that moment of, wow, I feel guilty for pressing charges against somebody who assaulted me. That wouldn't make sense because I didn't do anything wrong in this instance. Yes, I've done wrong. I understand her anger, but her actions are unacceptable. If we separate the two instances, because they are two separate things. And that moment, I did not do anything that deserved a punch in the face. And so the way she just took that, denied it completely. There's a term, it's called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So she denied it completely. She attacked me and my character, saying I'm a known liar and cheat. She took her lawyer, went to the court steps and said that I am abusing the court system, which is not true. And she said that I was deflecting and not taking accountability. And that's the reason that I, quote unquote, made that up. So, you know, in this instance, Scheana did like pull that DARVO, and I can't take on that responsibility. Like, actions have consequences. It's out of my control how you react to what those consequences are.
Okay. 1, I do not think she should have even brought up the whole history of Brock having a DV case and all of that. This has nothing to do with that. There's no need to rehash that. 2, I think she's deflecting again from the situation because I do believe that Scheana did not punch her. Do I think that Scheana pushed her out of the way, especially with everything that was happening? I do. Do I think maybe one of her claws, her nails, maybe scratched Rachel when she pushed her away? I do think that happened. Do I think that's DV? I don't, because I don't think she hit her. I think it was a reaction with the way that Rachel was like, well, I've been having an affair with Tom for 7 months. And yeah, Scheana reacted. Her actions of having that affair for 7 months and acting nonchalant about it caused Scheana to react in the way that she did. If she wasn't having an affair with someone for 7 months and didn't say it like that, none of that would have happened. I understand, though, it is 2 separate occasions, but none of that would have happened if Rachel didn't do what she did. I don't think she's understanding this. Do I think she should have even called the police and filed the report? I don't. I do think that Rachel went too far by filing a restraining order on her. I think that was above and beyond out of control. And I think she did it not to protect herself, but to fuck up the reunion. I honestly think that what she did went way too far. And she's not understanding that because of what she did and then how she reacted to what she was doing, people got emotional. That was her fault. Now, should Scheana have pushed her out of the way? Probably not, but it's a reaction. It happens. I don't think the consequences fit the action that Scheana did, in my opinion. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Can you also go a little bit further on that and explain that process of when you decided not to and how you worked with the attorneys and what she knew?
The whole temporary restraining order came about when I told my family about what happened, and they said that that's not cool and I need to file a police report. I need to go to the doctor and have him examine my eye and document that this happened. And there was like this question of filing a restraining order. And I said, as long as it doesn't go on her permanent record, like, I just want to know that it's not going to go on her permanent record. It's a temporary situation. It's not going to be in effect. In doing the temporary restraining order, I was trying to get everything out of the way so I could go off with my family and take some time to myself because it was so overwhelming. So I did everything that I needed to do in one day, and I filled out the paperwork. I signed it. We submitted it. I had no intentions of serving Scheana that paperwork. It was supposed to be something that I had in my back pocket in case she came forward lying, saying that I assaulted her or in case she just became super vindictive and would not stop talking about me in this instance, which she did anyway, but I digress. If you check the records, you will see that nowhere did I upload a photo of that document. I had no idea that TMZ would be searching for court documents. They released it. And so that took me off guard. And this was supposed to be something that I could pull out if I needed to, not just like, oh, it's out there and now she's thinking the worst. And I'm, and people are calling me, asking me to drop it. And I'm like, this wasn't even supposed to be a thing. I don't even think it's in effect. Like, I didn't know how that legal system worked. Very complicated. Anyway, I decided to drop the restraining order, and I worked with my legal team to do that. And I tried to make it clear to Scheana that I was dropping it like she wanted. She's been asking our mutual friends to contact me to get them to convince me to drop the restraining order. And instead of believing me, I think she was relieved at first when she got the paperwork I gave to Andy and Andy gave to her. And then she took a photo of the paperwork, sent it to her lawyer. Her lawyer said it's fake and it's not true. And we're going to go to court anyway. And so then she was mad again. And it just wasn't resolved in the way that it should have. Like, it should have just ended there and it could have just been done with. But instead, she made a whole spectacle of it, going to the court and making this statement to the press and saying, like, I lost because I didn't show up, which is not the case. I already told her I was dropping it and I wasn't going to show up. And by not showing up, it means that the case is dropped. But she decided to spin that narrative and say that I lost and that she's vindicated for her actions.
There is so much wrong with this answer. First off, that's not how temporary restraining orders work. You don't get a temporary restraining order on someone to just keep it in your back pocket just in case something happens. That is being a petty Betty. You did it just in case. You just said it yourself. If Scheana didn't stop talking about the situation, if then Scheana pursued this, you did it to be a petty Betty. The restraining order was not necessary. Number 2 on this, how it works, when you serve someone with a temporary restraining order, you just can't keep it in your back pocket. They have to be served that paperwork, letting them know that you filed a temporary restraining order on them. You think that they're not going to find out? They need to be aware of this. You can't just keep it in your back pocket and then, oh my God, you see Scheana and say, oh my God, I have a temporary RO, here it is. No. And if she wasn't served, and that did happen, let's just say that for instance, yes, then nothing could go about it because she wasn't served yet. They have to serve her to let her know that there is a temporary restraining order. Then that goes to a court date to then make that temporary restraining order permanent. So if you never wanted a permanent restraining order, then you never would have filed a temporary one to begin with. And if you're saying you only wanted it for temporary, then you were abusing the system, in my opinion. Now, the case got dismissed because you did not show up. So if you wanted to drop the temporary RO, you still needed to show up to court to say to the judge, I don't want this in effect. I don't need the restraining order anymore. I don't need the temporary. By you not showing up, they dismissed the case. So technically, yes, Rachel, you lost by not showing up. Because even if you didn't want that restraining order, you should have gone and told the judge you wanted to drop it. You can't just not show up. Not showing up, yeah, then dismisses it. It doesn't mean you dropped it because you didn't show up. Oh my God, there's so much wrong with that. And maybe it's because I do know a lot of legal stuff. It just pisses me off that, like, people don't understand how restraining orders work, but yet they're willing to get restraining orders on people. It's just bullshit, in my opinion, when it comes to that. And TMZ has people working around the clock to see if people have lawsuits. So when this got out that, she hit you, pushed you, whatever happened, TMZ was looking to see if there was a report or anything made. They're not stupid. and it's public record. So even, you don't know how TMZ got it, anybody could look it up. How do you think I have the whole Ariana and Tom whole lawsuit? I looked it up on the court system. Same with Lisa's. It's not hard to find. It's public record for a reason. Anyways, let's keep going.
Have you tried to reach out and talk to her after all this, or do you have plans on doing that down the line?
No, I don't plan on ever talking to her again. I don't have many boundaries, but one of them is physical violence. If you harm me physically, or if you harm any living animal physically, I will effective and immediately cut you out of my life. And like that is a solid, hard boundary that I have for myself. And it's sad looking at that and thinking like, oh, wow, things really have to get to such an extreme for you to draw these boundaries. So I'm working with my therapist now on how to create these boundaries so that things won't escalate to this crisis breaking point. So if that answers the question, no, I don't plan on reaching out to her. I have been working on my list of resentments towards people, and I don't know what the next step is necessarily, but I don't know. We'll see what the future holds, but I don't plan on having a relationship ever again with Scheana.
Well, I'm glad to hear she's working on her list and not holding resentment towards others. I think the best thing is that they both don't talk to each other ever again. I think Scheana is better off without Rachel, and Rachel is better off without Scheana. And I mean, we'll see what the future holds. But to say, like, I have a limit and DV is my limit, if that was your limit, then I hate to say, wouldn't you have stopped talking to James? Or is that something you're working on now too? Like you'll never talk to James again? Because you've accused him of, well, hurting Graham and also hurting you. So that just, to me, seems silly that she said that. Just say, listen, I have an issue. I didn't like how she handled it. And whatever. You lied, she lied, you're both mad at each other, but listen, it's not worth both of you having any heartache and pain. It's better off you don't talk to each other. How about that?
Going back to this last season, do you think that Ken and Lisa knew about the affair before it was revealed?
I don't know if Ken and Lisa knew about the affair as much as I think production probably knew about the affair. They did catch us in Cancun. Like, there's a moment that they caught on camera of Tom, like, slapping my ass, like, right behind Ariana's back and me pushing his hand away. And they caught that. I know that they saw it because they kept it in there. They also teased the affair with the trailer that came out. And the trailer came out, obviously, before season 10 came out. So I have a feeling, plus producers are all up in our business. They're looking at what we're posting all the time, who we're hanging out with. They're hearing what we're saying, like when cameras aren't rolling because we have mic packs on. And so it's very enmeshed. And I would be very surprised if they did not know about it.
They teased that there was definitely going to be a hookup, which we saw you hook up with Schwartz. That was more what they teased for season 10, not the affair, because no one knew about the affair until literally it was March 3rd after Watch What Happens Live. That is when everything went downhill. I still don't think production knew. They might have maybe had hints at it. And yeah, we did see the ass slap. Everyone saw the ass slap. They did keep that in. I mean, what do you want?
You address your behavior towards Katie and her mom at SUR in the original finale, and have you reflected on how you treated her while she was trying to heal from a divorce and have boundaries?
Yeah, I have reflected on that, and I do regret a lot of how I behaved towards Katie. I realize now that she was going through her own heartbreak and her own pain, and going through a divorce is not something that anybody wants to go through. And seeing your ex with somebody else is devastating. And so I played a part in being the offender. And I think to me, it didn't seem real. I lacked empathy for the position I was putting her in and the emotions that were coming up for her. And I really regret a lot of how I behaved in those situations. Yeah.
And can you address the throuple comment? And did you really mean it?
So with the throuple comment, it was strange. Like Tom and Ariana give off a open relationship vibe. And I know that they say that they're not in an open relationship, but like the lines were very blurry. And I know Tom would test her with certain things. Me being there, kind of like pushing this boundary to see what he could get away with. Ariana seemed totally fine in some instances. For example, that pool scene in Cancun where she went topless and I went in a dress and like we were all three in the jacuzzi. And so it gives mixed signals. I also know that like Ariana and Lala have had this little thing in the backseat of the car when Tom was driving. And Tom has also said like, oh yeah, Ariana and I check out girls together. And so it's these specific examples that make up this concept of an open relationship. And I don't know, it was a thought that I had and it was shot down. So
But you did mean it in the moment.
I meant it in the moment. Yeah. Ugh, yeah.
Let's start with the Katie and her mom comment first. She lacked empathy all around. It wasn't just with Katie and what she was going through, but also knowing her friend, Ariana, was having some issues in her relationship and being the one that was fucking her boyfriend. She lacked empathy all around. She didn't give a fuck about anyone's feelings. I also don't understand this whole open relationship and testing it out, as Rachel is saying. They never came off as a couple that had an open relationship. And I hate that she uses the Lala and Ariana hooking up in the back of the car, because at that point, Tom was also there. Tom was the one that gave his permission also after Ariana agreed. It was not something that was hidden from her partner at the time. And the fact that Ariana and Tom used to check out girls together also does not mean they have an open relationship. They aren't acting upon anything else but just checking them out. And I agree, or tell my boyfriend, hey, look at this hottie right there. It's not something that means open relationship. And the jacuzzi example is another poor ass example, because Ariana is secure, or was secure, in her relationship with Tom, and she entrusted in her partner. I don't think it was a big deal that Rachel was drunk with them in the jacuzzi, where Ariana was also half naked around her boyfriend, which that isn't weird. It wasn't like Rachel was topless also, which might not even be an issue with that group, seeing as this isn't something that group has not done before. We've seen where, Katie and Lala were topless in the jacuzzi when Ariana was show-wasted, and Schwartz and Sandoval were giving the girls drinks. I mean, this is something that's been done before with the group, and they entrusted in each other and their partners. So for me, this is just another poor-ass excuse. That's all it is.
What was the plan if no one found out about the affair? Would you have debuted as a couple in this next season? And did you talk about a plan?
He was saying, look, people hated Ariana in the beginning, and then they realized that we were sticking together and we weren't going anywhere. And so they had to accept it, and they ended up loving her. And so it could be the same for us. Isn't it funny how history repeats itself? I think in his mind, he's gotten away with it before, that he could get away with it again. And I think I was just naive and wishful thinking that this could work out the way that I wanted it to, because ultimately at that time I did want to be with him. Like I was hoping for the best, I guess. I don't know. But that's the thing too, because I was like, we need to tell Ariana before the reunion. Like we can't go into the reunion with her not knowing, because I feel like that just really, really wouldn't be fair on her. And the one thing that we got hung up on, like he did not want her to know when it first started. And I don't see the point in lying about those things, because isn't it much better to just like be upfront and honest and tell the truth and be like, look, this is how it is. I know it hurts you to hear this, but like it's doing you an injustice for you not to know
But then why didn't you bring it up
To Ariana? I almost did. There were a few instances that I almost brought it up to Ariana. I told Tom, I was like, maybe I should tell Ariana. And he was like, no, you're not going to tell Ariana. And I was like, okay, then you're going to tell Ariana. And so I was kind of waiting on him to tell her. It was my duty to tell her. Yes, I know that. In that moment, I felt like it was more of his responsibility, him being in that relationship with her, for him to tell her and for him to break up with her.
I don't know about you guys, but I always loved Ariana. Even with all the Kristen stuff, I thought Tom and Kristen were diabolical together. And I really loved Ariana and Tom together. And I also thought, and still do think, that Ariana is a wonderful friend. She's true. She's sincere. And that was something I really loved about her then, and I still do. And isn't it funny how history repeats itself? I know I mentioned this in chapter 2, but it's absolutely incredible how it all started with a kiss at the Golden Nugget between Ariana and Tom, and then it turned into Tom is with Rachel in a pool at his house, repeating history, but this time going a step further and, well, finishing the deed in the car. And I don't care if she was heart set on telling Ariana before the reunion, because it still wasn't fair to her. That is an excuse. It was never fair to her, regardless of how long you guys hid it. You were leading her on and pretending to be her friend and looking her in the eye and lying to her. Rachel says she doesn't see the point in lying about these things, yet she had no problem doing it for 7+ months. And of course, Tom told her not to tell Ariana. He was loving what they had, but that does not mean that she didn't have to listen to him. She could have gone and told her herself. I mean, shoot, if he really was in love with her and wanted to be with her, it wouldn't have mattered if she had told her or not. And if he did get mad, then that's a red flag right there. I mean, it was a red flag to begin with, but you know what I mean? That would have been a red flag right there.
What is it about Sandoval that he's able to have this power and influence over people? What do you think it is?
I think Sandoval, I don't know. I think some people can call it. Like, some people were able to see this from a mile away, and maybe those are the people that have experienced toxic relationships before, that they could kind of see his pattern. For me, I think it was the way that he presented himself. Like, he seemed like this selfless guy who would always root for the underdog, who wanted everyone to succeed and was selfless and would be very like giving to people in need, and like went out of his way to be that for other people. I think a lot of that is driven by his own ego. And so when I saw it as this kind soul who's giving and like figured something out in life. And in reality, I think it was just like what he wanted people to believe about him. And I was blinded by that. I had those rose-colored lenses on. And so all of those red flags, I didn't really pinpoint as red flags. And I didn't allow myself to register them to be that way. And I didn't want to believe it because I have known him for so long, and he had like consistently been this type of person throughout those years. So, yeah.
And just one last question to wrap this episode up. I think a lot of people have been wondering, you were so emotionless at the reunion.
Yeah.
And then in the last 5 minutes, you were being so honest, and there was a huge, drastic shift. Why?
I was compartmentalizing for the reunion. I was really like taking direction from somebody. And besides like it being super overwhelming and like there's a lot going on, the process of the trailer, going to the filming site and like the exchange of that with Scheana, and then Sandoval telling me to stick to the story, and just like observing and trying to keep my cool. And usually I'm the type of person to not overreact to things. Like I will be able to keep my cool in crisis moments, which I guess is a blessing and a curse. But I think because I wasn't being honest, I wasn't being truthful, I wasn't like revealing anything about myself, I wasn't able to be emotional in that way. And so I think that's why you see that dichotomy, that big shift in the last 5 minutes of that interview. Because, well, the interview was a lot more than 5 minutes, by the way. The last 5 minutes of season 10, you see me break down because I want to come clean and I'm still holding things back because I don't want to betray Tom, because he is the one person that I have left. Like in my world, it seemed like he was the only person. Like he got me, he understood me, he was there for me in all of this time, or so I believed. And by revealing these things, I was quote unquote betraying him. And I think that was also a really hard part for me, because it's like, okay, once I do this, that's it. Like he's never going to forgive me. Turns out he was mad when I told him, but he was like, don't ever do that to me again. When you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. You have to follow through with it. Like that's part of being a reliable person. And he's like, I've given you so many chances. And like, if you do this one more time, then I can't pursue a relationship with you. And through my trauma therapy, that was like a big thing that I was working on, because I was like, well, look, I betrayed Tom by telling this truth. And my therapist was like, whoa, 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 whoa. But didn't Tom betray you first? And I was like, how? Like I couldn't see it. And so I had to really think on that. Like, how did Tom betray me? Oh, he asked me to lie when he knew that I wasn't a good liar. And I expressed to him that I don't like lying. He put me in a really bad position with my friendships and this placement of being on this international reality TV show that my reputation was on the line. He knew I was going through this heartbreak, and I've heard him say on his interviews like, oh, Raquel really was coming into her own, and that's what attracted him to me. And I'm like, you asshole, you could have just let me be, like, let me live. Why can't you cheer me on as a friend? And the biggest way he betrayed me was filming me without my consent. I can see like the impact that the show had on my decisions, the impact that my trauma and my like connection with Tom had on those decisions, and my trust in him, and betraying myself in that process. I've been able to see a lot clearer now, and that's what I needed. I needed that space to gain that clarity. Otherwise, if I went back to do the show, it would just be all jumbled up in a million pieces. Once again, it would have been me and Tom versus the world, and I would have fallen into unhealthy patterns.
Oh boy, this girl will never get it. Sandoval is all for show. He's always been like that, and he will always continue to be like that, where he portrays his life the way he wants people to think he is living it. The overcaring friend, the over-the-top person, this full of life man. He is also a narcissist too, which these are all signs of it. Now, the reunion, I can imagine she had a lot on her mind. She had a temporary restraining order. She had people she had to face and take accountability for her actions, which she didn't. And that last 5 minutes, we did see her start to break down and see that she could understand now by being in front of these people that she hurt people, that she finally was seeing what she did, and that there was consequences to her actions. And yeah, what she did was extremely fucked up. And I think she was just realizing it in those last moments that we saw her on the reunion. And Tom again telling her all of these things was him being a narcissist. He was twisting it around so she would feel like she was hurting him so that he was then the victim. I mean, though she answered very generic questions a lot of people have asked, I still don't think that she answered the big questions. Like, is she sorry for all she has done, all the hurt she has caused, and all the things she chose to do? And why hasn't she expressed her sorrow? If she was truly sorry, she would be expressing it over and over again. And I just don't think she really is. I don't think she grasps just how serious this was to a lot of people. Not just Ariana, but a lot of people that are fans of the show as well. What do you guys think about these questions that she answered in Chapter 4? What do you think about her double header that she did this week? Do you think that she'll have a podcast next week? Let me know down below, and also make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and then go back and hit that notification bell to all so you can get notified every time I post a video or go live. I will be going live on Saturday night for game night, so I hope to see you all there, and I hope you all have a lovely evening, day, and I will see you again soon. Bye, everyone.
With the gritty on your arm once you cover up my bruises and battle scars, but it always ends the same. Can't bear the things I've had to face. Got you crying on your knees in pain. Oh, some things never change.